Hey friends, today we're going to be making clay cupcakes that look like this, that even look like this. They will be inspired by this guy, who's an artist who made things that look like these cupcakes and like this kind of a cupcake. Now let's back up for just a second and talk about this man. His name is Wayne Thiebaud. He is an American pop artist who's really famous for painting pictures of cupcakes and other types of desserts with a really bright and vibrant kind of style, and he's going to be our inspiration for our clay project today. Now, to get started today, I need to teach you a technique called the pinch method. We'll start out with only 1/2 of our piece of clay, so rip it in half best as you can, and set one of your pieces off to the side, preferably the larger of the two pieces if they came out uneven. Now work the clay back and forth in between your hands, make sure it's squishy, it's workable, it's soft, and when you're ready to go, you're going to create a ball out of the two pieces of clay by working it back and forth in between your hands. And when you have this thing looking just right, I want you to stop, take your thumb, and press it right into the center of the clay ball, making kind of a hole right in the middle. Now this is why they call it the pinch method. You are going to use your thumb and your forefingers to literally pinch the clay into a small bowl. So work evenly around all of the edges of this newly formed pinch pot, as we artists call these things. And you might notice that there are some cracks starting to form. The moisture in the clay is often soaked up by our hands, so we keep this stuff called slip that's in our containers on hand to kind of moisturize the clay, to fill in any cracks. You want to make this thing look like it's the bottom of a cupcake, so it can't be too wide, it can't be too thin. Have in mind that this is going to be the bottom of our cupcake. And then when you're finished making it, you can go around the edges using your slip and seal up any cracks, smooth anything down that may have formed or popped up while you are making this pinch pot. And then finally, when you have this thing smoothed out, you can flip it upside down on your table and take your clay tool and add some lines that move up and down to make this thing look even more like a cupcake. This will give it a nice texture that looks like the crinkled wrapper on the outside of an actual cupcake. Okay, people, I want to freeze here to let you know that when you get finished with the bottom of your cupcake, I need you to pick it up, carefully walk it over to my desk so that I can check it to make sure that it looks correct. If it was made a little bit too thick or a little bit too thin, there's a good chance it could fall apart in the kiln. So be sure that when you get finished with the bottom part of your cupcake, you bring it to my desk so that I can check it out to make sure that it will not fall apart in the kiln. Now that we have the bottom part of our cupcake all finished, it's time to create the swirl that will go onto the top of our cupcake. Now we need to do this by creating a coil. Take your whole piece of clay, and your goal is to keep this in one piece. Roll it out on the table, keep it flat, and use both of your hands at the same time because you want it to be pretty even. Now if you need to, you can use slip if you notice any really big cracks starting to form right away. If there are not, you can wait till the very end to do this. Use both of your hands to roll this thing out so it will stay even. And the more of your hand and the more that you roll it out on the table, the easier it will be. If you only roll in a really small place, it'll start to be less of a round coil and more of a flat coil. And remember, the goal here is to keep this thing in one long piece. So take your time, move slowly. This is not a race. Really slow and steady as you work. And try and keep this thing about as thick as a marker. So this next part is something that I'm going to help you out with when you bring the bottom part of your cupcake to my desk for me to help you check it to make sure that it's not too thick and it's not too thin. I will do something that is called scoring. I'll scratch the surface of the edge, the rim of your cupcake, and I'll apply a little bit of slip to it. That way, when you go to attach your coil to it that you've just made, it'll be extra sticky and extra grippy so that they won't fall apart. And wrap it on top of the cupcake all the way around. Now, as you start to wrap this thing around itself, it's supposed to get just a little bit smaller and smaller every time it goes around. So think about an actual cupcake, the way it looks. The coils get smaller and smaller and smaller as it works all the way up to 1 point. And I know that it looks like I'm really rushing through this process, but I'm actually really taking my time and moving slowly to make sure that it looks perfect. If you have any of a leftover piece of a coil at the end, you can rip it off, and we'll set that aside because you can use it to make a cherry to go on top of your cupcake if we have any time. Now, with a few more minutes left in class, you can take some slip and smooth out any bumps that you see left on your cupcake. And now our final step, after you have smoothed out any extra bumps or curves or ridges in your cupcake, I want you to pick up your cupcake in your hand, flip it upside down, and take a pointy clay tool or even a pencil if you don't have a pointy clay tool nearby. Write your initials on the bottom of your clay cupcake. These are all going to start to look the same as the person sitting next to you. So I want to make sure that you get your clay cupcake back after these things have dried out. After you write your initials on your clay cupcake, you'll walk your piece of art over to the cart, look for your teacher's name, and set it on the shelf, and so it is ready to dry. Now, let's say that you have just a little bit more time left. You've finished your cupcake, you've got your initials on it, and you look at the clock and you see, hey, I've got 5 more minutes to work. Well, you can take this time, if you have any extra clay left, to create a cherry to go on the very top. You'll take your clay and you'll roll it into a ball. And remember the way that we attached the coil, the snake that you created, the icing to the bottom of your cupcake. You're going to do the same thing here. I want you to score, which means to scratch the surface and make it like Velcro. To the top of the cupcake and the bottom of the cherry, use some slip and press them together, and then you are ready to go. And then the next time you come to class, we will get to paint these things to make them look even more unique and even more individual, using some really bright, vibrant neon colors to make these things look just like the work that Wayne Thiebaud has made in the past.